Hi, Libra Sun and Rising. Welcome to your October 2023 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Well, this is a jam-packed month, and this is also your solar return month. So happy birthday to you guys who are born in October. Also those born in September, because I'm actually recording this before the sun goes into Libra. And so, this is always when the sun is in your sign, there's this sense of well-being, because the sun is in your first house, and the first house is the self, the body. And so the sun has this, energizing, revitalizing influence. And we're going to have concentration of energy in the sign of Libra. This is, nothing surprising because this is the time of year for that, and then Scorpio. So it's going to affect your first house and then your second house. So, with the eclipse season happening and the first solar eclipse, the first eclipse at all in this series between your opposite sign of Aries and you, this is going to affect you directly. A solar eclipse is a powerful new moon. But let's start at the beginning. On the 4th of the month, Mercury goes into Libra. So finally, after the Mercury retrograde in Virgo, Mercury goes direct middle of the month in September, and then comes out of its shadow period a couple weeks after that, and finally goes into Libra. In your first house, this is simply you being aligned with your communication, being able to express yourself in a way, maybe having to express yourself in a way. Perhaps some of you are, interviewing for new work, or you're promoting yourself if you have your own business, or if you're finding love, you're getting together. Sometimes I have eavesdropped at cafes where usually it's younger people where they're getting together, and I'm like, I wonder if it's probably was some kind of like a online thing, because they're like talking about themselves. Well, how did they meet in the first place? But I'm kind of a nosy person, so it's just kind of interesting to hear what they say. On the 8th of the month, Venus goes into Virgo. So that's your ruler. And Venus has been hanging out in the 11th house for months. Since June, Venus was in the sign of Leo. And then there was that retrograde in late July. And so you may have experienced some kind of romantic attraction to, or even getting together with someone within a circle of friends, or maybe it was a friends with benefits situation, and that's why the Venus retrograde was like, okay, what are my values? Do I really want like this F buddy, or do I want a real relationship? Usually Libra people want a real relationship. They don't want to just have somebody that they can have their booty call with. Do people even say that nowadays? So your values may have been, reconsidered, and sometimes this is also because the person feels a little bit, I don't know, uncomfortable, abandoned, used, if they enter into that relationship thinking they can handle it, and then they end up, having feelings for that person that extend beyond sex. In the 11th house, we're talking about this issue of maybe even like platonic friends, or the people that you surround yourself with. And so that could also be something that you dealt with in terms of whether you shared the values of your friends. But in general, I would say, like, because Venus on the 8th goes into the 12th house in Virgo, this can be like hiding the relationship, keeping it to yourself, at least for now. And if you did meet this person through your circle of friends, you may not want their input. The two of you may be like, let's just see if we are compatible, and then we'll announce to everybody once we have, done our thing, stuff like that. So there might be this secretive aspect of some kind of love interest. There can also be a spiritual aspect. This could be you meeting someone that you feel is soulmate material, or you just feel like, gosh, this person is so familiar to me. Well, they might be. They might be somebody from a past life that you are reconnecting with. On the 10th, also, too, Venus in the 12th house can be like some kind of artistic project. Maybe you're going to unveil something later on and you're just keeping it to yourself for now. On the 10th, Pluto goes direct in a late degree of Capricorn. I think it's going to be like 27 degrees or so. And this has been affecting your 4th house of home and family. You probably thought that you had gotten rid of that when Pluto went into fellow air sign Aquarius back in March, but there's going to be another retrograde into Capricorn in 2024 and then straight into Aquarius from late 2024 onwards for 20 years. So that's really pretty unbelievable, if you ask me, to have one transit for 20 years. I mean, Pluto went into Capricorn for 15, so I guess that's pretty long term too. That's why it's a generational planet. So, and by the way, you want to really be aware, when Pluto is in your 4th house, of how this has impacted you in terms of this is your childhood. So sometimes this can give you so much information if you allow it to, because during the Pluto retrograde, it's going within. It's not looking necessarily. When Pluto is in the 4th house and it's direct, it's like, okay, what were those people? For instance, the mother can be the 4th house. Some say the father. So the family of origin, but also other influences that may have been very controlling, or, where there's a power issue there and maybe you felt like you didn't have that. Libra is a sign that really wants to get along with other people, and yet Libra is a cardinal sign, so you are one of the 4 signs represented by each element that is a self-starter, an initiator, and somebody who could be, a natural leader. Being a cardinal sign, however, these issues surrounding, being able to stand up for yourself and say no, these kinds of things are very important to master if you really want to do that. So now that Pluto is direct, you may be, really seeing your part in everything. And now you're kind of also retreading that ground, but in a direct motion, also seeing the people around you that contribute to whatever this means. And if it is connected to childhood, which the 4th house usually is, there can be that feeling of like, even like inner control, self-control, but how we control other people. Because when you have Pluto going back into Aquarius, and in that fifth house, you're going to have to face the fact that love can be controlling. And you may meet somebody in the next 20 years that is a significant person in your life. Maybe in some cases it will be an actual Scorpio, because Pluto is one of the rulers of Scorpio. That is very intense, very transformative, but also very controlling. And you're going to have to, that doesn't mean, when I say it's like a significant relationship, it could be a very challenging relationship. I'm not saying that this is your life partner. So you have to be on high alert. If, when Pluto goes into your fifth house, you don't want to be in that victim mentality or that learned helplessness where you feel like you have to people please, because this person can glom onto that and they will sense that you're the kind of person that they can push around in relationships. Even though the fifth house is not relationships, it's love, Pluto in the fifth will change your attitude towards love and hopefully empower you. But it's still in the fourth right now, so I just want to make that clear. Mars goes into Scorpio on the 12th, and so that's your second house of earned income. So that can be really hustling, doing whatever it takes. I do think some of you might be wanting to start a business, and perhaps you're like finding every opportunity to make money. Some people may have a specific goal in mind why they're doing this, or working overtime, whatever it is. And just 2 days after that, there is a solar eclipse at 21 degrees of Libra on the 14th. So this is in your first house. This is your new moon Libra, but it's enhanced by it being a solar eclipse. So this can be a very powerful time, not just now, but for the next year, we could say, especially if you are born around the 21st degree of Libra. On either side, you may have this very memorable 12-month period. But for all Libras, this is a great time to plant seeds of intention for what you want to manifest in the coming year. On the 22nd, Mercury goes into Scorpio, so in that second house. So you already have Mars there. Now you have Mercury kind of crunching the numbers, seeing how everything's going to work. I did not. Okay, I was thinking I didn't put when the sun goes into Scorpio, but actually that's the next day that the sun goes there. So then you have 3 planets in that second house. And so money, your mind is on your money and your money is on your mind. And then on the 28th, we have a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Taurus. So Taurus for you guys is the 8th house. This is another money house, but it's shared resources. So for any Libra individuals who are going through a divorce, for instance, this may be the final, scene from the movie of that relationship, because the lunar eclipse is like this grand crescendo, and it can be like a total letting go. And if this is especially true if you have had a partner who has tried to fight you tooth and nail and keep you from gaining some assets, or even like an inheritance issue. If that has been the case, that might go down that way as well. But there may be like this, either there's like the the whole thing kind of, I don't want to say collapses, but in a good way, that sense of like, okay, now that person caved, or they finally like let go, and now you can do what you need to do. But there can also be, with a lunar eclipse, it's like a realization of something that was hidden from you. This is the house of secrets. So if it's actually a spouse's money, maybe they have been earning money and haven't been putting it in the joint bank account, or maybe they were taking out money from a joint account that you weren't paying attention to, and then all of a sudden you find out that they've been doing this. So some kind of secret can come out, especially based on money, but also this is the purge. This is the eighth house, this is a shadow. So it could be psychological, but it could also be, when I say psychological, a lot of times I am saying spiritual, but there might be more on the spiritual level where you are realizing certain things about yourself, and not needing that veneer, not needing to be seen in a certain way, and kind of getting into that shadow and embracing the shadow, because all of it is burning off. All of the shadow is really the difficult emotions that we all have as human beings, but some people do not acknowledge them very much. They're ashamed of them, they're afraid of them. It makes them very sad to even like think about certain things that they have experienced. It can be triggering. And when you are brave and you face those psychological demons, if you want to call it that, or ghosts, it's like there's a saying, you're only as sick as your secrets. So when people are very guarded and they're like, they don't want anybody to know anything about them, and then when they can just like release that, they are so much freer. So there might be some liberation that comes about because of this lunar eclipse in the eighth house. Because it's at an early degree of Taurus, this may very well fall in your seventh house. And if so, this could be, I was going to say the death knell of a marriage, but the release, the liberation from a relationship that is not good. So suffice it to say, this is not to imply that all Libras who are married are going to, split up. It would have to be if your relationship sucked. And it would, even in those cases, not everybody would experience that. Okay, that's what I have for you, Libra. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.